When it came to Canada's federal election, perhaps no motif was more dogging on Trudeau's brand than his handling of his own plane file. First, it was a bus crashing into the wing of his campaign jet. Then, it was the story that came out that was revealed to Canadians that Justin Trudeau had two campaign jets, one to get his gaggle of media friends around the country and the other to carry his tickle trunk and all of the assorted costumes that come with being Canada's 23rd Prime Minister. The third plane scandal, and perhaps the most hilarious, was when Justin Trudeau used his campaign aircraft to fly between two airports in Montreal simply to avoid traffic congestion. Now, if that isn't the definition of a climate crusade hypocrite, I don't know what is. Now, fourth, and maybe most interesting to myself, is when Justin Trudeau's VIP government aircraft crashed face first into its airplane hangar. That was the CF-150 Polaris Airbus. It was completely unreported by the mainstream media, but more on that later. Now, in an ATIP filed exclusively by Rebel News, we found out that Justin Trudeau had the government, taxpayers, spend $140,000 on his aircraft use just before the election drop. $140,000 taxpayers spent to get Trudeau around Quebec and the east of the country in the Atlantic provinces. Boy, I bet Scheer wishes he could get a campaign donation like that subsidized by the taxpayer. Not just Scheer, in fact, every other candidate opposing Justin Trudeau did not have access to these luxurious jets to cart them around battleground constituencies in the lead up to the election. I'm going to show you exactly where he went, just so you have some context. And the interesting thing here isn't just how much money he spent, but also where he flew. Justin Trudeau flew between cities that were in such close proximity that a regular person could drive to them faster than they could get through airport security. First, Trudeau and his entourage flew to Toronto. The plane then went to St. Catharines empty a few days later to pick him up and fly him to Fredericton. It then flew empty to Moncton. It then picked Justin Trudeau up and his crowd and flew them to Halifax, then to Montreal empty, then to Quebec City, then Ottawa empty again. Now Justin Trudeau, Greta Thunberg, and the rest of these climate activists are telling us not to fly or to buy carbon offsets if you can afford them, if you're an elite Laurentian like Justin Trudeau. Well, Justin Trudeau, take your own advice, I might suggest. When you're flying between Ottawa and Montreal, a 2-hour and 20-minute drive, it really begs the question, what are your priorities? Now, Justin Trudeau spent $140,000 of Canadian taxpayers' dollars flying himself and many of his campaign staff in waiting around to battleground constituencies. If that isn't a news story, I don't know what is. I'm not sure why the mainstream media doesn't see fit on reporting on scandals like this. Luckily, I'm here to do that for them. For Rebel News, I'm Keean Bexte. Oh, actually, I have some bonus content for you before you go. You might remember I mentioned Justin Trudeau's CF-150 Polaris Airbus that crashed into the side of a hangar. I was just talking about how the mainstream media doesn't really do their job, and, well, here's another example of it. On October 18th, I reported exclusively that Justin Trudeau's VIP government jet crashed in its hangar. This was a huge story, especially with the motif of plane and bus accidents happening on Justin Trudeau's campaign. Now, this happened just days before Canadians went to polls. And what's interesting is the Royal Canadian Air Force didn't report on this, didn't report the accident until well after the polls closed. In fact, a month after, on November 25th. It only took a few days after that, December 2nd, for the mainstream media to pick up on this story that I reported about 40 days prior to them even bothering to cover it. Thanks so much for watching our coverage here at Rebel News. Be sure to like and subscribe to us here on YouTube first, of course, but secondly, if you have a son or daughter, perhaps they're university students, the best way to red pill them is by purchasing them a premium subscription for Rebel News. You can do that at rebelnews.com.